charm. I'm getting it.
Yep, exactly. Teamwork. Okay, so we are recording. Dipti, before we call the meeting to order, do you want to read our Open Meetings Act statement?
Yes, I will read that. The oral declaration regarding in-person meetings of the Community Relations Forum of the Village of Glencoe. Pursuant to recently adopted amendments to the Illinois Open Meetings Act included in Public Act 101-0640, public bodies may, in certain circumstances, hold entirely virtual public meetings without a quorum physically present in any one location. On March 19, 2020, President Levine issued a declaration of emergency pursuant to the authority granted by the Village Code, the Illinois Municipal Code, and the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, to address the health threat posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. On May 29, 2020, Governor Pritzker issued a disaster proclamation that declared in-person attendance at public meetings of more than 10 people at the regular meeting location to be infeasible in accordance the Open Meetings Act as amended by Public Act 101-0640. In accordance with the Governor's Disaster Proclamation and the Village President's Declaration of Emergency, I, as Chair of the Community Relations Forum, hereby determine that in-person meetings of the Community Relations Forum are not practical or prudent at this time until further notice. Okay. Oh, you're back. All right. So can we call the meeting to order? May I please have a roll call?
Sure thing. Chairperson Dipti Clark.
Here.
Member Marty Alisco. Member Margot Flanagan.
Here.
Reverend Dwayne Gary. Member Gary Rubin.
Here.
Member Maureen Valvasori.
Here.
And Member Bob Young.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. Approval of our July 8th meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, great. May I have a roll call vote?
Chairperson Dipti Clark.
Yes.
Member Margot Flanagan.
Yes.
Member Gary Rubin.
Yes.
Member Maureen Valvasori.
Yes.
And Member Bob Young.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, everyone. A public comment on topics not listed on the agenda. I do have to read this every time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the time in the meeting when a member of the public may comment on something that is not on the agenda. I will ask Sharon to read any public comments that were submitted prior to the meeting. After that, I will ask if any members of the public would like to comment on something that is not on the agenda. So if you would like to make a comment about something that is listed on the agenda, please hold your comment until that time. If a member of the public would like to make a comment now on something that is not listed on the agenda, please raise your hand or press the raise your hand button on your computer if you're joining the meeting, or *9 if you're on the phone. The Village's public comment rules limit comments to 3 minutes.
There were no public comments submitted prior to the meeting.
And we don't see any hands.
I do not see any hands raised by our attendees.
Okay. Well, great. Then we can move into our next item on the agenda, which is our continuing our discussion from our last meeting. Before I start the meeting, though, I wanted to let everyone know that we will try to keep our meeting to an hour in the essence of time and everyone's time. So let's try to wrap up within the hour. If we have very pressing topics, of course, we can go over. My guess is we should be able to stay within the hour. So I'm excited about that. Having said that, moving right into our agenda, and Sharon had sent that in the email to everybody because we do want to start moving forward on a plan creating some sort of even if there's smaller actions that lead us towards a larger plan. And I know that Sharon asked everyone to come with a couple of ideas that can be shared at this meeting. I do wanted to start off with a couple that I had on the list, which we've all talked at some point of either on the calls or individually. Certainly we are facing new challenges every day, and I don't think any one of us is really prepared to deal with them right away. We've never been through them before, or we are moving towards having the right plan of action. So please know that if there are other ideas out there, that's what we want to do, is share them. So we have had some of our organizations in Glencoe who are also reaching out. They want to start a dialogue, just like we are trying to start a dialogue. So I got a list from Sharon on the organizations that we all support or work with, specifically the village does. And the thought we had, and we've kind of discussed this, so it shouldn't come as new to everyone, is we can probably form subcommittees in pairs. So maybe two from our forum could take on a few of the organizations on their list and really make it as a project, if you may, so that we are not going outside the Open Meetings Act, and we are still pursuing working with these organizations, and then we can come back, regroup together as a larger group. How does that sound to everyone?
Dipti, I did want to note, I see Reverend Gary made his way in. Hello.
Oh, did he? Oh. I just
Hello,
told everyone you
hello,
weren't
everybody.
going to
I'm trying to multitask.
Well, I guess now we can officially congratulate you.
Well, thank you so much. We're looking forward to Sunday, which is the big day. And it's very difficult trying to plan a wedding in the midst of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so but we're looking forward to it. We just, long as we're just there and the efficient there, we're happy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's excellent.
Thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate
Mazel
it.
tov.
Awesome.
Hey, you have something else to now write about, right? A wedding in the pandemic.
Yes.
So Reverend Gary, I don't know if you caught any of what I had said, but we've talked about it. So hoping that we can form our subcommittees as we work with our organizations. Good luck. So just want to know from our group, how does this sound? Is this like something that we can move forward so that we then have a solid plan, because each subcommittee is working with a certain organization or few organizations. We are obviously dependent on the specific needs or the plans, but so it won't probably be the same for everyone, but it would be a way of moving forward towards our whole idea of starting a dialogue with our community.
Okay.
Did you have to say something, Margot? Sorry, I didn't know if you
Oh, no, I was wondering if that's a question. I think it's a good idea if our group can have a farther reach, if we, separate and meet with other groups, as long as we're bringing all the information back to the larger group, like you mentioned. I think what I was waiting for was to hear more about sort of the job description of each of these small groups.
Well, each one of us is free to make up our own job description, I'll be honest with you. The thing is, we have a common message. We all in the forum have a common message, right? And Sharon said that we'll work on drafting something formally that we can share with the organizations so they know who they can reach out to, how they can reach out to for the members of the forum. If we're okay with this plan, then I can work with each of you individually and we can figure out who's more comfortable with, dealing with which organizations or, is more interested in working with a particular organization. I mean, that's all the details, right, of working that out. But if this is a good plan to move forward, and we are 7 of us on the forum, so we may have to have a group of 3.
We would, Dipti, what we would likely need to do, have
yeah.
maybe some overlap, people who have more than one pair, more than one buddy. And if I may, related to the subcommittee groups, certainly doing some outreach to other community organizations. We've heard from some of whom I see as attendees here at the meeting today have expressed interest in potentially engaging with the forum or having some sort of complementary efforts with the forum. That can definitely be some work that the subcommittees do to try to have a liaison with those organizations. The forum may also consider whether there's a subcommittee that works on, say, whether it's engagement and outreach within the community or working toward planning a specific event or a specific program. Those could potentially also be opportunities for subcommittee assignments. So it's a component of it may be interacting with other organizations in the community that would like to participate with the forum. Another element of that could very well be that there are some more tangible things that, or some tangible things, activities, programs, things like that, that are planned in addition to.
So that was my second.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, because the first one was specific to just creating these broader subcommittees that could start working with organizations. And then the next point was to go into this detail of having our specific point of contact from our forum. So the events planning, for example, would be one. And we would probably want to do some thinking and put a list together for some of these activities that we see happening within our forum so that we can move forward, divide and conquer, if you may. I hate to use the word divide, but in this situation, it would probably be beneficial to us so that when we do regroup as a group, we will have more to share. And Sharon, to your point, I also wanted to talk about how if our some of our organizations are working on sharing the message and having a dialogue in the community, we would like to hear their experiences, both positive and negative. Mostly positive, of course, because it's always nice to see how that's making a difference. So definitely we want to have that open dialogue within ourselves, between the organizations, and having it shared. So it's really important that everyone hears what is being done in our community as a whole. Any thoughts, comments from anybody?
I mean, I think whatever we do, we need to reach out as quickly as possible. I think the latest chalking incident on Monday is an indication of precisely that, of reaching out to members of the community and others. And, while I mention it, I want to commend the public safety officers who I saw there for doing a really very good job. Incidents like that can go south very, very quickly, but they handled it, I thought, very, very well. But a related issue to moving quickly is how we get the word out. You know, the fact that no one from the community is joining us on this Zoom meeting is of concern to me. Attracting the attention of people is very, very difficult. And I would hope that in connection with what we do, we keep a very close eye on what we can do to increase public participation. And I think that's going to be, I mean, I'm sure we'll come up with good ideas, but unless they're communicated to the members of the village, it's going to be ineffectual. You know, to me, one of the best examples is the fact that cars are entered in Glencoe routinely. People leave their fobs inside. I believe houses have been entered. Apparently, no one reads the newspaper. When I see excellent postings by the village, and we get them almost every day, there are very few people who like it or make some comments. So I think we need to do those two things simultaneously. Reach out, but we need to communicate in order to do that. Is that?
So Bob, one of the things also we talked about, Sharon and I, earlier today, was having an email address shared, which probably like how can we be reached? And I think right now we just talked about like having to go through Sharon since she is our liaison. So putting that out there. And to your point about the community really not joining these, maybe we need to be actively present. Like what if we are out there in downtown Glencoe? What if we, just happen to spend an hour there, a couple of the members, and start talking to, or are available there. I don't know. Somebody mentioned, not sure if it was Maureen or Sharon, having a desk there, for our forum. But, I mean, we could try that. I mean, certainly we're there in the midst of it, and people are welcome to come and introduce themselves, talk to us, even provide their information so we could invite them to these kind of meetings or, remind them. However, we want to make this more aware amongst everyone.
Well, could we, I mean, we know the heads of different organizations in the village. Can we not simply offer them an invitation to join us for our Zoom meetings, to participate in them?
Our meetings are open, and actually we do have a number of our community organizations represented on today's meeting. I don't know if you can see that, Bob, in your attendees view or not. But there are several here. Yeah, it's a little trickier with the virtual meeting versus being able to see people physically sitting in the room.
Right.
But I think that aligns with what Dipti was suggesting with reaching out to organizations. Certainly some organizations that we've already had some dialogue with that they've expressed they'd like to be engaged with the forum. Family Service of Glencoe, for example, District 35. And so there may be other organizations that would like to connect. And I think that if the forum takes that step of doing some outreach to those organizations, that could be very fruitful to develop more opportunities to collaborate.
So there are people out there who are listening and we know who they are.
There are several people who are currently logged into today's meeting as attendees.
Can they Zoom with us?
They're logged in as attendees.
Right. Can we see them?
Their attendees don't have video sharing capabilities. Only the forum members do have video sharing capabilities.
So we can't extend an invitation to Zoom?
We could.
Why not do that?
What we may want to do, Bob, is chat about how we could do that and how the logistics may work for that.
Okay. So a formal invitation to the head of a church or the head of Glencoe Family Service?
Right. So what the forum can do, and I think kind of along the lines of what the forum did a couple of years ago with doing some outreach to community organizations, where the forum invited representatives from different organizations to come meet. FSG, I think we had a meeting with District 35, and a number of others that I don't have in front of me, and I don't want to get them incorrect. So that's certainly something that the forum can do, and maybe a good outgrowth of that initial contact with some of our community organizations. And again, on today's call, there are several attendees who are part of different organizations who have expressed an interest in being engaged with the forum. So it may just be a limitation of your Zoom view right now that you're not seeing them. But
Well, Bob, if you see the participants on the bottom, do you see on the bottom of your Zoom screen, do you see participants? It says 15.
Sure, I'll check it out.
Yeah, then you can
Thank-
see the list if you just click on the participants. So we do have a few attendees outside of the forum. And that's kind of where I was going with when I said, let's pair up, form subcommittees and start working with the organizations. So to your point, exactly, that's where we start talking to them, inviting them, having them talk to their congregations or their organizations about our forum, our meeting, this place to come and have an open dialogue. Does that make sense?
Oh, by all means. Right.
Okay. So what I'll do is I have a list from Sharon. What I'll do is I will share it with each of you, and let's get our subcommittees together and form those relationships, for like partnerships, maybe a better word. And that would be like our immediate thing to move forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Would it be possible for you to share that list with us now, or is that something that you're not ready
Well,
to
I
do?
mean, I have it. It's like,
I can perhaps summarize. There are a number of organizations that the village has some sort of established relationship with. Some are other units of government in the village. Some are civic organizations. Since we've not done this outreach yet, rather than potentially putting an organization on the spot right now, I would suggest that maybe we do outreach to those organizations through the process that Dipti was just suggesting. But for example, other units of government like District 35, which has already reached out and expressed an interest in being engaged, Family Service of Glencoe, Writers Theater, the Glencoe Rotary, similar types of organizations. So I just don't want to put an organization on the spot because we haven't done that initial outreach yet.
So if, okay, I'm tired. I'm getting up every hour and a half all night long. But so these are organizations that have reached out to the village, which we have not reached back to. Is that what you're saying?
No.
And then also maybe this would help too. If when we do get the list from Dipti, if there are organizations that maybe each one of us has a personal relationship with or was not come up with, do we then add them to the subcommittee list at that point? Does that make sense?
I mean, I'm open to it. I don't know what the rules are, Sharon. I'll leave that up to you. But I would think that the more we reach out, even if it's through organizations, we're reaching the larger community.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I was trying to raise my hand about earlier, and I realized that we're confined by the restraints of our social distancing and COVID, is that the Human Relations Forum throughout my tenure on it has had lots and lots of opportunities to interact with the community, talk to them about what we do, what we're here for, and offer them the opportunity to reach back to us. At one point we talked about having not just an email, but a page on the village website. I don't know if that ever came up, but we did talk about it pretty extensively for meetings, so that people could just go to the village website, go to the community relations forum, make comments, ask questions, and look and see what we're doing. And that's something that we've had conversations about. We also used to try and have members present at the Meet the Board events. I participated in a couple of those. We had tables at farmer markets. We were participants in Pumpkin Day. I mean, we were able to, because the village was gathering. So that being said, with the village not gathering the way that we used to, although there are still people at hometown, you know, could we do something there like we used to do at Starbucks? I sold dog wash tickets at one thing with Katie Sweeney, who used to be more active with our group. But is there a virtual village event or something that we could have a virtual table at? And those are just the kinds of things I was talking about that seemed to be pretty popular in the past. That's how we got a lot of the signatures on the inclusivity pledge, by standing out in front of Village Hall and asking people to sign it and explaining to them what it was.
Margot, I did want to address your question about an email address and a website or web page. We have both of those on the village's website. And to your point too about a virtual event, that may be something that the forum could work on through one of its subcommittee assignments. That's, to your point, we have some physical distancing limitations and we don't have the same community gathering events in person that we did out pre-COVID, but we certainly can, the forum certainly can work towards some sort of virtual event, which could be a really creative way to engage with the community, if that's something that you would like to do as a forum.
Well, and I'm, because I don't want to look for extra work, I was thinking if the village board was contemplating any way of board members, and maybe Gary knows, like the Meet the Board you know, 2 board members would go sit at Starbucks. Is there anything in the works for the Board of Trustees of our village to do that a human relations forum or community relations forum member could be sitting at the virtual table with them, as we have done in the past? And I don't think that would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, but I could be wrong.
Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the normal coffees with the board and things like that, haven't they been postponed because of COVID?
The in-person ones have. We had a virtual, I believe we did a virtual coffee a while ago, but the concept is certainly one that we could consider, or the board could consider, but we could certainly take that back.
Well, I've been at any number of coffees with the boards, both from the school board side and as a village trustee. And even we weren't getting that many people to show up as it was when it was a nice day. So I think really maybe the better focus here might be to follow up on Dipti's point about having the list of community organizations or other organizations in our community or not to reach out to, going and, you know, making contacts, talking with leadership and describing what we want to do, describing how we want to get our message out to the community to have more communication and discussion about these topics, and then come back and start to set up at whether it's on a regularly scheduled day or otherwise, meetings that are probably going to be longer than an hour, where it's been reasonably well publicized within a group or groups to their constituency, probably with topics that are focused perhaps on their constituency. And there I'm thinking, you know, maybe we're talking about issues within the school, and District 35 will be participating. maybe we're talking about issues within the businesses, et cetera, or just in general, however we wind up working that after we garner more information from the various many organizations that we'll be speaking with. But I think then we just start to have the meetings and say, okay, this is going to be the topic and this is it. And we're, people are going to be expressing views from these organizations. And then we would really hope people will show up on our Zoom call. And I don't know if they can be broadcast in terms of picture as well as video or not. I mean, video as well as audio or not. But we do that and, hope to start to get a lot more people brought into specific conversations about the specific issues that we would like to discuss. And I think that will happen. I mean, I think about the number of people that show up to a village meeting when you want to talk about whether or not we're going to have marijuana sales in Glencoe. There is no problem getting lots of people to physically show up, let alone to simply dial in to a Zoom call from the privacy of their home to either listen or participate as they choose. So I'm hopeful that if we reach out to various organizations, we'll be able to get the word out and with a planned meeting with specific topics, get people to show up. I'm very optimistic.
It's our first step, Gary. I mean, there's some way we have to get ourselves out there. I definitely think partnering with the organizations gets the message out. I mean, right now, we've only met twice. This is our third meeting. I think this is really more for the forum to just connect with each other because like I'm new and I didn't know anybody and the forum hadn't met in a year and a half. So, we're trying to see how can we reach out to the community. And if this is a way, I mean, you're our liaison with the board, and I know that you had given an update, in the last meeting about the forum, which is a really good thing. It's a great start. You're putting us on the agenda with the board. I mean, more people are hearing about, what we're doing or planning to do. And I think that's, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight as much as we want it to. But we all have to be even individually involved as well, right? I mean, talk to people, your neighbors, your friends equally. Give them this information when we have these meetings. Hey, come dial in, I think even that is reaching out.
I certainly agree. I'm not saying we don't do things individually, et cetera, but I really like your idea that you put forward in terms of reaching out to other organizations to help us get word out for more organized meetings about specific topics.
And this is a list.
As well as generally just dial in and start participating at our meetings.
Right. And this is a list that is just, a start. And, nobody's saying we won't add anybody to it or anything like that. It's a start. At least it's something to begin with. We certainly know some of them have approached the village and are interested in speaking with us. So let's take advantage of that and start moving forward is what I'm just saying here. So Margot, we'll definitely go through the list. If you have specifics, let me know. We'll talk through with Sharon and Phil, see if that's a possibility of any other organizations that you think are not covered. We certainly don't want to leave anybody out, right? So feel free to do that.
And forgive me, I misspoke earlier with the comment of the coffee with the board. We had one that was postponed due to COVID since we weren't able to gather in person. The last few months have been a bit of a blur, so I didn't recall that correctly. Forgive me.
For all of us, Sharon.
We forgive you, Sharon.
So in that context, is everyone okay with that plan for moving forward? We have one action item immediately. Then we can move on to the next topic. I mean, if you're not okay, speak up. Otherwise, I'm going to assume everyone's okay with it.
Okay, we're okay.
That's good. Yay. The next point I wanted to see was if any other, like I know that Sharon had sent an email asking all the forum members to come with an idea of some sort of an action plan. So if you have something you'd like to share, would you like to share now?
Actually, Dipti and I discussed this. I don't know if anyone's on Nextdoor Glencoe, but apparently there's going to be some type of Zoom meeting or discussion or presentation called After the Walk that's following up the walk that took place in Winnetka. And it might be a great thing for a few of us to plug into to kind of see what's discussed, how they do it, the topics that are covered. No pressure, Reverend Gary, but it would be fabulous to do something like after the rally, because that had such a fabulous turnout and, you know, really brought the community together. So that's one thing that's coming up. Dipti, do you remember the date?
I
August?
think it's the first week in August. I think it's, let's see. Well, I'm not on Facebook, so I can't sign up, but I did reach out to the organizer, asked if I can get a link at least. But it's going to be like an ongoing series, apparently. I think it's on the first Thursday in August or something like that. They're going to have 4 or 5 series of it, is what I know. Yeah, I mean, I did go for the walk, so I am really interested in knowing what they're going to have in those Zoom meetings, you know, so I want to listen and see. So it was on Nextdoor, so if anybody's interested, you know, you can sign up on Facebook if you have Facebook.
Can you find out if there's a way to sign up other than Facebook, Dipti?
I'll see. He was going to send me a link because I asked him if there was a link outside of Facebook, the Zoom link. So I'll find out.
Okay,
I'll
thank
send
you.
it to you.
Thank you.
So yeah, that would be interesting, right? I mean, something like we can learn from it maybe just by listening in to see how they're approaching in their village. I don't know if it's a village in event or just, you know, organized by just community residents, but I'm very curious to know what they are going to talk after the walk. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
May I chime in? Maureen, thank you for lifting that up. So the Glencoe Clergy Association did point out during the rally 4 initiatives, one which we have already done, which was have a initial conversation with Phil, the village manager, and with Deputy Chief Carey with the Glencoe Public Safety, which we have already started that conversation. The second thing was we wanted to do something with our houses, our faith houses of worship, and the Glencoe residents, such as a book reading where everybody read a particular book and we come together and to discuss it. So we have just decided on the book. The name of the book is called The Vanishing Half. It's by Miss Brett Burnett. It's a novel about 2 twins who were raised up in a small community. At the age of 16, they ran away from home. However, one of the twin sisters, being an African American, is raising her child in this community, while her sister, who is Caucasian, is living her life with her Caucasian husband. And yet they're living 2 different stories and how they will bring up their children once they begin to meet. So it deals with determination, it deals with issue of race, it deals with making decisions. And so we have decided to talk about this, read this book, and on Monday, August the 24th at 7 p.m., we will have a panel discussion with all those who wish to join us. That information we will send out to the community, and we will share it as we shared on today.
That sounds great. My question is, if you don't belong to a house of worship, can we still get the word out there that this is taking place?
Yes, our plan is to advertise it in our local paper so that the residents of Glencoe will also be notified of it.
Awesome. Thank you.
And everybody just reads individually on their own.
I didn't hear you, Dipta.
So we're going to read the book and then everyone just comes together for the forum discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
So everybody reads the book. We're going to have a couple panelists,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be open Zoom, so people will be able to chime in, ask questions, and discuss the book.
You mentioned 4 initiatives, Reverend. Was there another?
Yes, the other one is how do we deal with anti-racism in our village? The fourth one is voters registration and the movement to get out and to vote, not dealing with your particular party, but dealing with the initiative that we need to get out and vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry, that's an uncomfortable silence. It was, I was just processing something in my mind before I said it. I think for today's meeting, would it be okay if we take this one action item forward and then regroup? We are meeting in 2 weeks, right, Sharon? The next meeting is in 2 weeks. And then going forward, you were going to set something up on a monthly basis?
So we've got planned twice a month, generally the first and third Wednesday of the month. So that for August would put us at August 5th and August 19th. And then we can continue that twice a month cadence as long as the forum would like to do so. Or if you decide at some point that you'd like to scale to a once a month cadence, that's something that you can do. And there's always the ability to schedule a meeting as long as we've got at least 48 hours notice to publish the agenda. We could always schedule a one-off meeting. So if you did, for example, at some point in the future, scale back to once monthly, and then there was something that you wanted to meet on at a sooner interval than that, we could certainly work to schedule that.
Okay, thank you. I was clarifying that because if we are going to work in our subcommittees and then regroup, if we needed to regroup before a monthly meeting, or it would be a possibility.
With the next meeting being August 5th, I don't know if that provides enough time for these outreach activities to begin. I don't know how long that may take to complete, so perhaps that might be a good starting point to check back in on how progress is going.
Can we figure out at least the subcommittees right now? Well, we can be working in pairs, right? Because if we do 3, then we won't be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
Correct. You can have pairs working as a subcommittee, but not 3.
Okay, so yeah, let's just, it sounds like everyone is here except Marty, and we'll just put Marty in with someone. Just pair him up. So can we at least just form subcommittees? I'm okay with working with anybody. I'll just let everyone else decide. If we can just get the groups together, then we can work on the organizations and who wants to move forward later, as I can like share that list with everyone. Or is that too much to work in this meeting?
No, the reason I was asking you at the beginning of the meeting if we could have a little bit more clarification on what I call the job description, it was more of a, you know, how how do we pair two people that are interested in working with an organization without knowing what the organizations are? For example, I would like very much to meet with and have a discussion with Reverend Neighbors of Evanston, who is also the local head of the NCAA or NAACP for our area. And I know that Reverend Gary is friends with him. So I would like very much to meet with Reverend Gary and Reverend Neighbors, I think is his name, if that would be okay. But I don't know if that made the list. And I don't know if, you know, I don't know if I have enough information to make a decision where I can be most useful to this group, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. Am I making no sense? I could be making no sense.
No,
I'm really
you're
tired.
fine. You're fine. I understand there's ambiguity. Just so you know, that is not on the list because this is just Glencoe organizations that we have. So
yeah, if I may clarify too, what Dipti had asked me for was a list of organizations that Glencoe, the village, has an established relationship with of some kind. So that's the list that I provided. It's not an exhaustive list of every community organization in the region. It's just those that there's an established relationship with in some facet.
Right.
and it's a start, Margot, like we talked about.
I understand that.
You know, I mean, certainly it's open. I mean, my idea was because I can't talk to more than one person at a time outside of this meeting, it's harder to have people take on responsibilities. So I thought it would be easier to have the subcommittees, and then we could easily be flexible with if you know you wanted to work with a certain organization, and I could say, yeah, sure, you can put your name there and I'll take my name off, for example. I mean, it's easier that way, which is why I stated initially, if we can just form our subcommittees, you know, then I feel like we came out of the meeting with something more substantial.
Thank you.
Do I have comments from anyone else on the forum? Are you guys willing to form the subcommittees right now? Do you want to do it later, one-on-one?
Would it be helpful, Dipti, if you emailed out the list and everyone had a chance to take a look at it, and then is that okay, Sharon? And we could email back just saying, I feel drawn to contact and happy to work with, or and if everyone, you know, could try to get that done in the next couple of days.
That was my initial thought, because I had a spreadsheet I put together with, I'm a spreadsheet person, sorry. So I had it all like put together, and I was going to have everyone fill out the names in there. But I don't know like how many people can be copied on it or whatever, but if I can just share it with you all, and then instead of replying all, if you just reply to me individually, then it's fine.
Just a suggestion, if Sharon could share that with the group, that would be the better way, I believe, under the Open Meetings Act. And then we can reply back to you, as long as we're doing it one at a time, or to Sharon, whichever you all prefer. But I think Sharon should disseminate it.
Okay.
We can do that as well. Yep. Happy to do it.
Good idea.
This is why we need lawyers on the call, right?
And I think within a couple of days, if we all just take a minute and respond, then, you know, as has been said by others, then you'll see if any of us have interests in particular organizations. And I think at the same time, we all ought to suggest other organizations that we might be thinking of that might not be on the list, if there are such, so that we, you know, can have either a secondary list or an expanded list, depending upon how this goes, so that we can start reaching out and again, expand the reach of the group, expand the megaphone, if you will, to bring in these other folks to help get the word out. Because at the end of the day, we both want to hear from all of these folks to the extent they have stories to tell, or they have people within their organizations that will come and speak with us, either individually or on an open forum. And then we also want to certainly have more open events where we just, whether it's led by panelists, by others, and have people listening and commenting on these issues more broadly, a town hall, if you will, or 2 or 3 on more focused topics down the road when we have done more organizational and other homework in advance of those things. I think that's ultimately phenomenal if we can accomplish
That's our long-term
that.
goal, isn't it? We've talked about that like
Yeah.
before in our past meetings. Our long-term goal obviously is to have that scale of a town hall sort of a scale. I just wanted to give a quick update that Maureen and I had a quick meeting, a really good meeting with Writers Theater. So it went because we wanted to make ourselves available, that we're here, you know, to listen if they'd like to share. And they're going to get back to us on if their employees would like to share and what particular method or forum they would like to share it in. So that just wanted to give an update that that's where we are on that. And also with all the recent events that are happening in the town, I will let Sharon speak from the village perspective on what the village is planning to do with there's a message that will be shared. So Sharon, if you just want to give a quick update on that.
Sure, and Gary, feel free to jump in. What I can try to do is summarize some remarks that President Levin had shared at the village board meeting last week, which was to provide information about the village's practice with regards to chalk messages. And I think we shared that practice with this group at a previous meeting. So forgive me if this is a duplicate. But our practice is that we have not removed chalk throughout the village. And President Levin provided some additional clarification as to chalk not being considered graffiti by the village in large part due to its temporary nature. And he also encouraged people to participate in dialogues such as those with the Community Relations Forum, and made the very clear statement that hate has no home in Glencoe, and that racism, religious discrimination, and the unequal treatment of people for any reason are important issues for our community and our society to engage in thoughtful dialogue around. So that's the very brief synopsis of it. Gary, did I miss anything?
No, I think you did an excellent, provided us an excellent synopsis. And I think that it's likely another such message is going to go out shortly from our village president to our residents and others, and on our website and to the papers and such, on this topic, reinforcing that and reinforcing the message that not just that the chalking of sidewalks is considered a not graffiti. It's not our practice to remove such things, but that really encouraging people once again to engage in dialogue through this forum or other forums that they find, their religious organizations, whatever organizations that they're members of, to engage in open dialogue about these topics so that we can do more than speak to each other, speak at each other. We can speak with each other. That was part of, I think, Larry's message as well. That's hopefully people will take to heart.
It all goes back to our goal of being there, just being available. We'll try to reach out as much as we can we've seen the message, we hear you, and start the dialogue. So, I mean, you know, at some point we want to get to that point. Um, okay, thank you both for that update. I think that is what I had on the agenda for discussion. Does anybody have anything else on there?
I would just want to reiterate what I said earlier about having a sense of urgency about what we're doing. And I want to thank the village president and also public safety for how they've handled it. The two officers there Monday really did a very, very good job. I sit at that intersection with my dog almost every day. There are quite a few people are very irritated about the chalking. And I'm not a hair on fire kind of guy, but you know, there's always the potential of it going sideways. So I think reaching out, putting together a good program is a very, very important thing for us to do. We don't want it to go sideways. And there were some very irritated people there. I would just urge you to, whenever you can, go to the intersection, open your ears. There's some irritated people. Thank you.
And I would just chime in that as we go to these intersections and observe, that we pay attention to all the messages.
Yeah.
Not just the messages that are being chalked, but also the message on how we approach the chalker. The dialogues, the body language, all of these are messages that we need to pay attention to so that we will help educate each other how to grow through some difficult times.
I agree 100%.
So, I mean, we are trying to make ourselves available. So that's why we thought maybe having some presence there in the downtown area, maybe over the weekend, just kind of, you know, to see, watch, listen, talk to people, our community. I mean, there's just nothing wrong with that, you know, it's just more dialogue. So I'll try to make a trip or two down there over the weekend. You know, I mean, if we see the chalkers, maybe even, you know, ask them, hey, what brings you to Glencoe? Or how can we help? Now we hear you, we see you, how can we help? You know, I mean, that's really, we have to start this dialogue somewhere. So it can't be confrontational. We don't want it to be confrontational. There's no message in confrontation. So that's kind of the idea.
And we also have to not only have a dialogue with the person that's writing of the chalking, we also have to have the dialogue with the individual who is approaching the people who are chalking. Because if we're talking about this incident, we're actually talking about racism. We're actually talking about an African-American man writing the chalk. And we're looking at that message, but we also have to look at the privileged white person who approached the African-American man. That's another dialogue. And so if we're gonna really dive deep into this, we have to look at both sides. We have to look at both sides of the coin. We have to get both sides of the story and just not focus, because it's not really, to me, the message of the chalk. Is how we communicate to one another. And I don't like to be biblical all the time. But the summary of many things is love your neighbor as you love yourself. And your neighbor does not have a particular color, but your neighbor does have value. And we have to look at people who have their value and their message has value and have impact. and we have to learn to understand, appreciate, agree and disagree without being one-sided.
Well said, for sure. I'm so glad you joined our call, Reverend Gary. It's more important than getting married, right?
Yeah, well, no, my marriage is more, is more important.
Believe me, I did not expect you to say yes to that.
I love y'all, but I love the women I'm about to marry the most.
I certainly did not expect a yes
Very
on
well
that one.
said, sir. Very well said.
Oh.
Yeah, go for it.
But I'm invested in Glencoe. I live in Glencoe. I want the best for Glencoe to go forward. And this is very difficult for everybody. Sometimes we cannot tiptoe around it. We have to really say what it is, try to understand what it is, and how do we educate what it is to everybody so we appreciate both sides.
Yes. And if we can be there to not have it get to a confrontational point, then I think that's really a big benefit, you know. I don't know. You said it. We can't take sides. So I will be planning to go downtown some point this weekend. Join me for coffee. So that is what I had on the agenda. Is there any public comments? Karen, do we have any public
I'm not
comments?
seeing any hands raised, and I'm just checking if there were any that were submitted while the group was discussing. Give me one moment. And there were no comments. Oh, wait, hang on. I think I might have seen one that I missed. I'm so sorry. I see a comment that I missed earlier because I somehow missed it. So my apologies. I will read it now if I may. The comment is from Scott Himmel, who is also with us today. So Reverend Himmel, my sincerest apologies for not seeing this earlier in the afternoon. The comment is, Dear Chair Clark and Community Relations Forum, my name is Reverend Scott Himmel, Senior Pastor of North Shore United Methodist Church of Glencoe. In reading the minutes from the CRF's July 8th meeting, I see that there was a conversation of a facilitator/trainer being identified to help with community conversations on race and equality issues. Such conversations can be emotionally charged and thus the need for a professional to be involved. If I may, I would like to suggest Lombard Mennonite Peace Center staff who specialize in mediation and community conversations. They are experts at how to de-escalate stressful situations while helping respective parties establish both a sense of peace with one another and shared trust. Their primary focus is on helping churches work through conflict, but they also serve non-church organizations as well. I am glad to share additional information if it is helpful to this body. Thank you. Grace and peace, Reverend Scott S. Himmel, Senior Pastor, North Shore UMC. And again, Reverend Himmel, my sincerest apologies. I don't know how that slipped by me earlier today.
Thank you for that, Reverend Himmel, and I would love to follow up if at all possible. I'd love to get more information about that organization and bring it back to the forum if that's appropriate.
I think he's on the call. Can he, I see two hands raised. Can he be like unmuted? Michael has a hand raised and Scott Himmel does too.
Sure. Scott, I'm going to unmute you here. You've got the ability to unmute yourself. There you go.
Great. Hello, and this is great. And Sharon, no problem at all. Email can be quite busy for all of us. So hello, Community Relations Forum, and can I address any questions about Lombard Mennonite Peace Center?
I have a dozen questions, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave the meeting in the next 10 minutes. I'm wondering, unless anyone else has questions, maybe we could have the conversation. I could bring the information back if that's helpful, or
Perfect.
we could get a brief conversation going this evening, whatever works for people.
Go for it, Maureen.
Maureen, that's great, and I'm available tonight. We could talk, or we can set up a time later in the week, and then we could present to this body if you'd like to.
Terrific. How about if I reach out tomorrow?
Perfect. That sounds great. I'll look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael has his hand raised.
I am just toggling over to him now. Michael, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for this work. I just want to lift up what Reverend Gary was saying. I think as I've been doing my interviews now with artists and staff members to try and prepare for communications with this committee, a common thread that I'm hearing is a feeling of being unwelcome. And not just in terms of interactions with public safety, but in businesses, simply walking down the street, in the grocery store, getting looks, being asked questions. What are you doing here? Where are you from? And I think that's an important piece of information to bear in mind, particularly when addressing the chalker conversations, because you want folks to feel welcome in Glencoe. And I think and if somebody starts to confront and the situation veers towards racism, I think it's very important that white people step in to help mitigate those conversations. Because I think too often we sort of step to the side when those kinds of confrontations happen and assume that people of color are there to navigate those dialogues. And if those dialogues are being instigated by white people and they are expressing racist concepts, then I think other white people need to come in to help mitigate that. And I would encourage everybody on this call, if you experience any of those kinds of circumstances, that is one very, very, very helpful way to help people of color feel welcome in Glencoe. I think there is a lot of goodwill in this community, and people just don't feel comfortable necessarily stepping in to help. And I think that will be one of the greatest steps we can take towards mitigating racism in Glencoe, is activating our own engagement in protecting people of color from feeling uncomfortable when they are our guests and our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You hit the right spot when we had a conversation about being advocates. This is where I feel like you're right. We do need to stand up and be advocates, not just white people. I think just any resident of Glencoe, I would be an advocate for someone if I see someone not being treated right. I mean, you know, especially someone of color, a visitor, someone who works here, or lives here, it doesn't matter. If someone's not being treated right and I see it, I would be the advocate and I would step in and mitigate. So yes, you said white people because maybe the community is majority white, but I want to put this out for the entire community that we all have to do it.
Yes, thank you. I think sometimes my only observation is that white people, we tend to step aside and allow people of color to take those conversations when the burden is on us. But of course, anybody in the community should feel empowered to step forward and help the community embrace guests.
Yes, we have to be an advocate for a person who we see is in need for that. because quite often, more often than so, and I have faced it, where I am struggling to stand up for myself, and there are a whole, either a train full or a Starbucks full of people who do not do anything. They don't say anything. And at that point, you are basically forced to kind of be just this one person who really accomplished nothing, maybe stated your point, and then that was it. So it may make it more of an impact, but I just feel like we just need to be more aware and stand up for the people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Clark.
Can you call me Dipti? I'm fine with that.
Thanks, Dipti.
I feel like everybody calls me like Chair Clark or Mrs. Clark. Reverend Gary likes to call that. And I'm okay with Mrs. Clark, but I'm certainly a very informal person. So yes, Dipti is fine too. So with that, do we have any other public comments?
I am not seeing any other hands raised.
Okay. Is there any other business any member of the forum wants to raise? Okay. So we are going to meet in 2 weeks, and Sharon, you'll send the invite. And then may I have a motion to adjourn?
So
I
moved.
still move.
I second.
That came really fast. Oh, excellent.
This motion, although last time we had some dissent on the motion to adjourn.
Well, you know, it means that we have had fruitful meetings, I think. And, you know, before we end the meeting, I just want to thank each and every one of you, because you have been significant in helping me be a part of this community and understanding how the community works. Sharon, you have been phenomenal, just keeping me on track. So, you know, thank you to every single one of you. It's a pleasure to work with everyone. We have great ideas. Everyone is so much empathy, so much to move forward with. Positive. I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome.
And now may I have a roll call to vote for the adjournment?
Sure. Chairperson Dipti Clark.
Yeah.
Member Margot Flanagan.
Yes.
Reverend Dwayne Gary.
Yes.
Member Gary Rubin.
Yes.
Member Maureen Valvasori.
Yes.
Member Bob Young. We are adjourned. Well, thank you all. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.